but they're sending 99% of their goods in the war. They're selling 99% to
well, they were doing
Britain,
it on purpose,
and only 1% to Germany. You know, in World War I, Germans actually started doing terrorist attacks in and around New York City. They were blowing up warehouses on the docks that had munitions going to Britain. They actually had a suitcase bomb that they were going to put it near the White House. So, yeah, Germany made the mistake that they desperately wanted to get public opinion against the war, so that the U.S. wouldn't go into war because they thought it was going to be inevitable.
Well, yeah, but because I thought that they essentially used those things and kind of put them in a situation where, because I thought they didn't know that it was a U.S. ship, and that
they knew. As a matter of fact, Germany took out a newspaper ad in all the major East Coast newspapers, saying that if you take on the Lusitania, we are not responsible for shooting it down. There was actually newspaper ads the German embassy in Washington took out to warn people that you're going into a war zone.
Right. So they did it anyway. But either way, I know that they did lend England money, and that there was some influence there from J.P. Morgan to get his money. And, so the first thing they did was lend England money, like, right away. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have a lot to talk about. We still want to get a little more into the attacks in France, what's going on with the refugees and where they're going throughout the world, and any other stories that Ken has to bring up as well. So be sure to check Ken out at the Daily Economist, and his articles are also published in a bunch of other websites as well. But the best place to go is to the Daily Economist. And you have an RSS feed set up there as well, right, where you can just automatically receive emails with your articles in them.
Yeah, on the dailyeconomist.com there, my Examiner articles are RSS fed in on the right side, and then my To the Death Media and Secrets of the Fed, I just I actually put like the first two paragraphs and then a link that goes to where the article is.
And you can also, if you're interested in carrot bars, you can get in touch with Ken on that, which is basically gold that is linked to essentially a debit card that's backed up by gold that you can convert to whatever currency you want. So you can find more information about that at the Daily Economist as well. And you can also end up making money off it as well. So definitely check that out. Get some more information about that. If you'd like to call in, you can call in at 702-470-7664. Again, that's 702-470-7664. Or Skype into the show, username NonPartisanLibertyForall. Just send a contact request with your name, where you're from, and what you want to talk about. And all that information, if you forget the number or the username, you can get that at NonPartisanLibertyForall.com. So we will be right back after this. Don't go nowhere.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda? He said, no. He says, there's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq. He said, I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments. And he said, I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail. So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. The truth is about the Middle East is, had there been no oil there, it would be like Africa. Nobody is threatening to intervene in Africa. The problem is the opposite. We keep asking for people to intervene and stop it. And there's no question that the presence of petroleum throughout the region has sparked great power involvement. Whether that was the specific motivation for the coup or not, I can't tell you, but there's always been this attitude that somehow we could intervene and use force in the region.
Are you and your family prepared for a grid failure? Shield yourself from blackouts with a home backup system or portable off-grid solar energy system from Off Grid Depot. Off Grid Depot also supplies water pumps, DC appliances, and other products for off-the-grid living. Power your prep. Bug out vehicle, shelter, or remote location with a power system from Off Grid Depot today. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. It's a beautiful Sunday in Arizona, February 22nd. We've got the Oscars tonight. Isn't that exciting? There'll be so many people tuning into the Oscars, but completely oblivious to what's going on overseas. Namely, a general, a former NATO commander, head of all of NATO, I believe it was the years 2007 through 2011 range, General Wesley Clark. You probably remember him. He had a very famous interview on Democracy Now! Where he said that post the staged terror attacks of September 11, 2001, he got a memo allegedly from then Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense, that said that the United States federal government would be launching an aggressive invasion and attack of countries in the Middle East, namely Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Sudan. The list went on. And he was flabbergasted by the list because he couldn't understand why we'd be attacking countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. You remember Bush's lie of WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, when the official bullshit narrative of September 11, 2001, which again, there's unanswered questions like Building 7 and no plane fragments at the Pentagon, etc. Couldn't believe we'd be attacking those countries when the official bullshit narrative was it was mostly Saudi Arabian nationals on board the alleged planes during the September 11th, 2001 terror attack. Had nothing to do, again, with Iraq or Afghanistan. Is back in the news. Had an interview on CNN, the mainstream media bullshit media channel, where he said that ISIS was created by the U.S. and her allies.
So you're in a little bit of a dilemma on that. We need to leave that kind of fuzzy on this, but we need the authorization to follow the leads, put the troops in, and play this. Look, ISIS got started through funding from our friends and allies, because as people will tell you in the region, if you want somebody who will fight to the death against Hezbollah, you don't put out a recruiting poster and say, sign up for us, we're going to make a better world. You go after zealots, and you go after these religious fundamentalists. That's who fights Hezbollah.
But, General, I'm hearing you on...
It's like a Frankenstein.
I'm hearing you on keeping Syria fuzzy, but, they've been very clear in wanting to destroy and dismantle ISIS, so that's not fuzzy to me at all. The question would be, if they wipe out ISIS in Syria, which is the goal, then what with Bashar al-Assad? Yeah. There has to be a plan for that phase.
Well, some things you can't exactly plan that clearly because you're dealing in the realm of politics. So part of it is, can you get the Russians to withdraw their support from Bashar al-Assad? How would you do that? Well, you're dealing with the Russians in Ukraine right now, and they're not being helpful.
No, they're
in fact, from Putin's perspective, he probably sees it as the opposite play. He says that because the Americans need us to help on Iran, because they don't have a ground force in Syria, they're actually relying on us. Therefore, we can push Ukraine further, and the Americans won't stop us because they're afraid they'll lose our cooperation elsewhere in the world.
That's right, only more proof to the pudding. He must be tuning in to alternative media television. This is a valedictorian, a Rhodes Scholar. I believe he went to West Point, saying it's the U.S. and her allies that created ISIL, the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, out of thin air as a smokescreen so we can go and fight these wars that the general didn't even understand post-September 11th, 2001. Again, this is just an utter lie. I did a video, our last video, asking what if ISIS was just total bullshit? What if ISIL was a lie? It was a fabrication.
By the way, doesn't decimate mean you destroy everything but 1/10 of 1% or 10%? Decimate?
I think maybe. I'm not really sure about the technical definition.
Well, can you get back to me on that while we roll to this tape of people talking about Al-Qaeda being decimated?
There should be no doubt. Today, America is stronger, and Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat. We've decimated Al-Qaeda's leadership.
Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat, and bin Laden is dead.
We've decimated Al-Qaeda Central. We have eliminated Osama bin Laden.
Al-Qaeda is much weaker than it was when I came into office.
Osama bin Laden is dead, and General Motors is alive.
The war in Afghanistan is coming to a close. Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat. Osama bin Laden is dead. Today, the core of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Pakistan is on the path to defeat. Their remaining operatives spend more time thinking about their own safety than plotting against us.
Get your gun. Yo, it's a samurai showdown. Samurai showdown. Yo, DGN, how dare you challenge me? You will die from the tip of my sword today. You're courageous. You must remain calm. Right, clear.
Nonpartisan Liberty for All, and we are back. I just realized I didn't have the sound turned up for Ken on those clips from Wesley Clark. Unfortunately, I wanted him to hear those because the way I have everything set up is I run off two computers. One has my Spreaker on it, and one I run Skype and any audio that I play. So during the breaks, I have to turn up. I have a mix minus set up, so I have to turn up the volume so he could hear it, and then I have to turn it down after, otherwise he'll get an echo, and of course I don't want him to get an echo, so I always forget. And so sorry about that, Ken, but it was about him talking about ISIS being created by the U.S. I think he says U.S. allies, at least that's what it's titled, but by the West, at least. I don't know if you've heard the interview before, but that's where this guy, like I said, one, he sounds like an idiot, but I don't understand him coming out and saying these things.
He wouldn't say them unless the powers that be wanted him to. And because here's the thing, who was General Wesley Clark? He was the NATO commander in Bosnia under Clinton, and we saw how Bosnia was screwed up. So the dude is a tool. You know, his name isn't worthy of being, held in the annals of, good U.S. generals. So, after what he did in Bosnia and working for Clinton, it's hard to even believe or trust anything he says.
Well, it's the fact that he says all that stuff, and then he comes out and says the other thing that he said about a month ago about putting people in camps. He came off like a fucking lunatic.
Yeah, well, here's something interesting. I was listening to an interview with Dr. Jim Willey recently,